Hi guys, this is Dr. Aeronautics, and this is the 5th XR-2 tutorial on Ascent to orbit with the XR-2 Ravenstar. So, just recently, there's a change to orbiter that I'm playing on, or I should not say that I'm playing on, but I'm simulating. Uh, and that is due to recommendation in the comments, I've added bases mod. Forget exactly its name, but it's like the standard bases add-on or something. Basically, what it does is all these yellow boxes here, which, and especially the ones that come default in Orbiter, come out. There's only like 3 of them that actually have runways and stuff, and the rest of them don't. So I'm actually at Vandenburg Air Force Base right now in California on the Pacific Coast. I believe it's just northwest of Los Angeles. And I'm featuring this is the Angel Red skin on the XR-2 Ravenstar. It's very early in the morning, the sun just came up, and we're going to ascend to orbit today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So it starts like any other thing. You have to power up the MFDs, and I'm going to go ahead and fix this so that it's more readable when we reach orbit. And we're going to want the surface MFD on this side, and I prefer the map on the other side. So this is our location here. That does look like it's northwest of Los Angeles. So those are set. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our lights on. There's nothing we have to do up there yet. So we're going to go to the Fahrenheit normally. I prefer that for low atmospheric flight. I'm going to turn the tertiary HUD on, which is much more visible. I'm going to turn the secondary HUD on the atmospheric mode, which gives out the altitude and velocity information. We're going to turn the surface HUD on, and now I'm going to adjust the field of view to where I like it. And now down here, okay, it was hiding for a moment. Down here, we want to check our fuel. Everything seems to be in working order. We're nearly full, which is good, especially if scram engines, which are critical to the flight. And the external cooling has bottomed out at 31.20 degrees Celsius. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go into the later stages of the startup, the non-electronic portions. Just a word of advice. There is in the XR Flight Operations Manual, I believe it's pages 31 through 35 or something like that. It details information on like a walkthrough that basically tells you everything you need to know from ground to ascent. I'm not going to be quoting that. I prefer my own sort of way of flying the ship that sort of blends how it's supposed to be done with the most fuel efficient way of doing it with the way I like to do it. So there will be some differences in there, but in terms of system losses, those will be minimal. So if you prefer my method to orbit better, that works fine. But there are going to be some values that differ, like in altitude and velocity and that sort of thing. Okay, so we're going to close the cabin hatch now, so we need to power up the auxiliary power unit. Okay, now, so that's powered on, and again, I'm thinking to myself that means we're going to be doing atmospheric flight now. We're going to close the cabin hatch now. So there now you can see in the system status display the cabin hatch is closed. Note our mass, 77,700 pounds. Compared to what it was when we did our re-entry, our pseudo re-entry, not really on the last episode, was not much lower than that. Okay, the cabin hatch is now closed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to enable the air flight control services.
Hitch on.
So I'm going to put that to on. I'm going to adjust the trim to where I like it. And just give one more check here. Everything seems to be in order. I'm going to cut the external the external cooling line now.
Using onboard O2.
Right now we should be ready to move. We're not on the runway yet, so we need to taxi to it. So we're going to go ahead and taxi using the speed hold autopilot at 5 meters per second. So I'm going to go ahead and accelerate to that now. And we're there now. So you can see as we move east, the sun will rise higher and higher in the sky. So we can begin our turn now towards the runway. And you can see long taxis aren't preferable in the XR-2 because we're actually going to lose about 1% of our fuel mass. So what I typically do on the very long missions is taxi to the runway with somewhat empty tanks, kind of like the the SR-71. And but then when I get to the runway, I bring the fuel truck over and have it filled up then. So we press spacebar to disengage that autopilot and then throttle back. So now we're on the runway ready for takeoff. We're going to reset that to 0. We won't need it. We shouldn't need attitude hold either. Okay, so if there's anything else that we need to do, we should do it now. I can't think of anything else. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So we're going to push the main engines to full power. 3, 2, 1, now. And again, we're waiting for rotate.
V1. Rotate.
Pitch up. Positive
Lead
rate,
off.
gear up. Now we throttle back to a more efficient level here.
Gear up and locked.
And then we're going to turn to whichever area we are going to. We're at 34 degrees north, which I think is a great inclination. So we're going to hold that by turning due east 90 degrees. We're going to go right out into the sun. So we're going to go ahead and level that out now. Okay, and like I said earlier, we're going to use our scram engines for the ascent. So we're going to now pitch up to 30 degrees, which is what I like. And we're going to get up to about 85,000 feet, or about 25 kilometers. And at that point, we're going to level off and then try activating the scram engines.
Mach 1.
There, we just now broke the sound barrier. Okay, just reset the recording, so we should be good. You can see here, our altitude is now about 30 much our main fuel is coming down here.
Mach 2.
Okay, there's Mach 2. I'm going to begin holding this velocity now, and we're going to begin to level out. Okay, we're coming up on the target altitude, so we're going to pitch back now to hold this. And I'm going to also counteract it by using less engines because we don't need nearly as much thrust to stay aloft at this speed. Okay, we're ready to engage the scram engines. So now we open the scram doors here, and we begin to throttle up. We're now accelerating under scram engine power, so I've cut the main engines off. We're at 90,000 feet now, so we're going to go ahead and drop back a little bit for the scram engines to get just a little bit more power, and then we're going to volt out of the atmosphere. We want to try and get the dynamic pressure up near about 30 kilopascal initially for the scram engines to start working, and then we'll mitigate that as we go up. When we go through the normal altitude, 30 kilometers,
Mach 3.
when I switch displays here, I'm going to go to Celsius there, I will switch this to the Ascent, where the dynamic pressures will be much more visible. Okay, so we're at 30 now, so what I'm going to do is pitch up out of the atmosphere to hold that.
Mach 4.
Okay, and now it's going high, so we're going to reduce the scram engines so that we don't lose any efficiency.
Information. APU fuel 90%.
So that was just a
Mach 5.
status update on the amount of fuel that we have left for the auxiliary power unit. Okay, so basically what we want to do now is, as we get faster and faster, trend the dynamic pressure down to about 10
Mach 6.
kilopascal when we reach about 40, 45 kilometers. Meanwhile, we've passed through 30 kilometers, so I'm going to go ahead and switch. That's interesting. It didn't keep the settings. And there you can see now.
Mach 7.
Okay, we'll look at this dynamic pressure reading here.
Mach
Okay.
8.
So here is 40 kilometers. We're going to want to be about 10. So we're not being quite as efficient as we could be. So we're going to try and lower that a little bit.
Mach 9.
We want to try and get this to go lower. Again, this is the efficiency that we're working on there. We're also keeping an eye on our scram temperatures, which are now becoming warm, and they will become hot very soon. You can see our orbit
Mach
here is beginning
10.
to form. Okay, somewhere around 55 kilometers. I like to then aim for a dynamic pressure of about 4 kilopascal. So we're going to go ahead
Mach
and
11.
do that now. Okay, we want to go a little bit higher than this. We're also going to go to full scram engine power.
Mach 12.
We're going to pitch up a little bit more to mitigate this. Again, we're going to try and drop the dynamic pressure to about 5 or 4 by the
Mach
time we reach
13.
55 kilometers. We want to balance the amount of air that the scram engines have to breathe with the amount of air that we're basically
Mach 14.
air that's smacking into the ship. Looks like we're over Phoenix, Arizona right now.
Mach 15.
Again, keeping an eye on the scram temperatures here. Our dynamic pressures are doing fine. So everything is as it should be right now.
Mach 16.
So as we go faster,
Mach 17.
the difference in the velocity between the diffuser and the incoming airstream decreases, and that's what gives scram engines their power. So we're actually losing a bit of efficiency right now.
Mach 18.
We're also getting very hot. We need to start watching those temperature values.
Mach 19.
Okay, we're at 7,000. I like to throttle down about halfway here because we're quickly approaching the yellow regions. Okay, there's yellow. We have to shut down now. Okay, we've shut down. Now, you must close the scram doors. If you do not close the scram doors and we accelerate, that will continue going up. Meanwhile, back to the main engines again. We no longer
20.
need the atmosphere. So we're going to pitch up and out of it now.
Mach 21.
And you can see now we've almost reached orbit. So all that's left now is just a little bit of ascent to the point where our apogee goes high enough. I'm
Mach
going to
22.
aim for 350 kilometers.
Mach 23.
So I can now relieve the elevator trim pressure because our slope is increasing.
Mach 24.
Okay, we're coming up on it. There's 200.
Mach
There's
25.
350. Miko. Okay, so that's it. We're in a positive slope rate all the way up out of the atmosphere to 370 kilometers. That will change, however, because we're still largely in the atmosphere. You can see our dynamic pressures are still quite high. Temperatures are coming down, so we're going to switch to the Fahrenheit scale again.
Mach 26.
So now what I'm waiting for is the dynamic pressure to decrease enough that I feel comfortable opening the radiator. I'm also waiting for these temperatures to come down as well. They should come down to a near freezing for a little bit, and
Mach
then they're going to drop
27
off.
plus.
Okay, so you just heard the last call out that the computer gave was Mach 27 plus. That is the last Mach call out that it will give. It will not give speed of sound call outs after Mach 27, which happens to be ballistic speeds, which we're at now, and I believe we just went down through Mach 27. It looks like we're going down through it now. If you take a look, there's actually a rather interesting range of... okay, the dynamic pressure's gone down now, so we're going to open the radiator. So here now in the much higher sun brightness, we can now see the radiator beginning to open. Okay, and that's just open now. Meanwhile, we're near the Caribbean. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of cloud cover right now, so it's very difficult to see. But that does look like... Actually, what does that look like? Is that Louisiana? Yes, it is. This is the Mississippi Peninsula. Or Delta. Well, it's more of a delta here, but then it becomes a peninsula because it just keeps on depositing stuff into the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, we've gone through minus 100, and now even Celsius, so now I'm onto the Kelvin scale. The radiator hat has been opened. We're now going to switch to the orbit HUD, switch to my green that I like.
Pitch.
Turn the air flight control services on.
Rotation.
Reaction control system on. And we're going to turn prograde now. Meanwhile, the ascent is complete. We're switching to the secondary HUD 5, which is the nominal orbital HUD. So the only thing that we need the APU fuel for was the air flight control services and the opening the radiator, and we're in space now, so it's done its purpose. We don't need it anymore. We're going to shut it down. Okay, we're in stable prograde now. Okay, so this completes the ascent. We're now finished except for the circularization burn. We're now safely at a high enough altitude in space that we are a spacecraft. With that said, we're going to take a look at our coolant temperatures here. You can see they got up to about 45 degrees Celsius, but they're now coming down. They will continue to come down. Also to note, we've only used a little bit of our APU, which is fine. We won't need that much even for the re-entry, which is good. Scram engines, however, we've basically emptied out the tank, except for a couple percent that we might use just to boost when we re-enter if something goes wrong with that. It shouldn't, because I'm generally really good with re-entries in this vehicle, of course, when I plan them out. As for the reaction control system, that's up, and we still have plenty of main fuel to do maneuvering and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward now to the apogee, where we will perform the circularization burn. You can see here the temperatures are changing as we move through the thermosphere. So there's 10x. And again, this is the, back to regular time, this is the Caribbean. That looks like Cuba, I believe it is. Where's Hannibal? There it is. That's a great orbiter base down there, Hannibal. Meanwhile, we just passed Cape Canaveral in Florida there, and the outer edge of the Caribbean Sea. That looks like Haiti and Dominican Republic. So we're not quite there yet. We'll go back to 10x. Keep an eye on this here. So that would be Puerto Rico, and that is that looks like Antigua and Barbuda. And as you go south, there's just the various islands that go down here all the way to this, which is South America. This is Venezuela. You can see Angel Falls there, and very soon we're going to be going. Kourou. I know about Kourou. There's a base down there, and it launches the European Space Agency rockets. If we change the field of view, yes, you can just barely make it out. If you're using high res, you might be able to see it. There it is down there. You can see the buildings and stuff down there. We're about 260 kilometers up, and for you who use miles, about 170 miles up. Although it should say here. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and return the field of view. Okay. Back to 10x. We're now passing over what's called the South Atlantic Anomaly, which is a nightmare for real-life spacecraft operators. Currently, there's nothing in orbit or simulated by the South Atlantic, simulating the South Atlantic Anomaly. But basically, what it is a magnetic fluctuation in what they call the Van Allen belts, which are protective of the gamma rays and X-rays. But the problem with that is it interferes with very much electronics. So in the real world, if you're flying a spacecraft up here, you would not want to command anything to the spacecraft when you're up here. There is Ascension Island. I was looking for that. You would not want to command anything when you're up here because the South Atlantic Ocean is notorious for its communication errors. And I have to say, the South Atlantic is absolutely beautiful. So here is the constellation of Canis Major, and the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, is right there. We're 100 seconds from the apogee. We're turning prograde again. We have plenty of fuel with which to make this burn, and it's a very... I'd be surprised if we use any more than like 100 kilograms to level this out here. So what we basically do here is just what we did before. We circularize. That's all we're doing. So we're going to go back to 10x until we get closer. There's about 20 seconds until... Okay, we're coming up on it, so we're going to burn now. There it is now, we've just circularized. So this is it now, we're fully in orbit, no question about it, and whatever we wanted to do, dock with the International Space Station, deploy a satellite, just be up here just cause, build a space station, whatever we wanted to do, we could do it now. So this completes the tutorial, and I thank you guys for joining me on XR Tutorial 5 on Orbital Ascent. Next tutorial will begin right here, and will be on re-entry. And I will tell you exactly everything you need to know to go through a safe, temperature-controlled, acceleration-controlled descent all the way down to where you come out of it right over Cape Canaveral. And I will explain exactly how to do that because it is very difficult, but I know how to do it, and I will show you guys the secret to do that. So I will see you guys next time for that. Bye.